Now, Yud Gimel Amud Beis will begin Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots. We were discussing previously the halacha lo yachol zavim ezovim the hergel dovar, the shaila about ishtay nida, that hu bebigdo he bebigdo. So we continue on with some of the halachas and a maisa regarding ishtay nida. Tana de Eliyahu Meiser betalmid echad. There was a Meiser with a certain Talmud Shishana Harbe. He learned Vikara Harbe v'Shimish Talmid Chacham Harbe. He learned Mikra, Mishnah, and Shimish Talmid Chacham. He learned Gemara, the Talmim of the Mishnayos. Nevertheless, even though he was such a big Talmid Chacham, Umeis b'Chatzi Yamav, he died at middle age. V'Haisa Ishna Nertelas Tfilav, and his wife in her tsar. In her morning, she took his tefillin and machzarasim b'vati knisayis b'vati midrashes. She used to go around to the different shuls, the different bati midrashes. V'amrlem, she asked the shaila, how could it be? Uksib, the Torah says, ki yu chayecha v'arech yamecha, that the Torah is yamecha, chayecha v'arech yamecha, bali sheshana harbe v'kora harbe. V'shimish talmid chacham harbe, that he learned so much Mikra, Mishnah, and Gemara. Mipnei meis b'chatzi yama. Why did he die in middle age? And she specifically quoted the pasuk in the Mepharshim say, Ki chayecha v'orach yamecha, meaning not only olam haba but olam hazeh also. So why did he die so young? V'lo haya adam machzira davar. No one had an answer for her. Pa'amachas, the Tana B'Leo says, I was by her, I stayed by her, and she told over this mice, and she asked the shaila, and I said to her, Biti, how did he conduct himself when you were Anita? How did he conduct himself at that time? Ormali, she said to me, Chas v'sholem, I feel a be'espektana loy nogabi. He didn't touch me even with a small finger. He had harchakas, he didn't even come close. So then I asked, how did he treat you? What was his conduct, his hanhaga, in your Mei Luvinayach, when you were Zayin Nakim? So in the way Rashi learns, other Rishonim learn differently, and we'll see a little bit more in a moment. Rashi learns that when you were a Zava, she was a Re'iyah during the 11 days between one Nidat Kufa and the other Nidat Kufa. Between that period of time, if there was a Re'iyah, and she had a Re'iyah of 3 days, should be a Zava Gedolah. There's a requirement for Zayin Nakim of 7 clean days, and they would wear white clothes to make sure that there was no Re'iyah's dam, and if there was, that it would be visible. So what was your conduct in Yemei Ziva? So she answered, Achalimi, he ate with me, Vishasayimi, and drank with me, V'yashanimi v'kira basar, and they slept together with the closeness of basar, with the basar, they touching each other. But V'lei also died Taladavar Acher, but he had no thought of anything else. He had no thought of a Tashmi Shamita. V'amarti lo Baruch HaMakom Shaharga. And I answered, Baruch HaMakom, that he was killed, that he was taken in midlife. Shalei Nosa Panam L'Torah. He did not treat respectfully what the Torah says. You can't come close. So how can it be Kira Basar? You're Tumei at that time. How can we have Kira Basar? So therefore, his punishment was deserving. He also Ravdimi Amar, it was Bekir Basar Mamash. He said, it was a narrow bed, but they weren't touching each other. There was no kirabasa. It was not ad kedei kach of kirabasa. Rav Amri in Eretz Yisrael said, Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Sina Mafsik Beino Lebeino. There was undergarments, so therefore there was no kirabasa to that extent, because there was a separation. So this is the way Rashi learns it, that Yemei Levinayach means that the time when she was a Zava. She was a Zava. But the Mepharshim Taisus, Adam Rishonim, and they have a problem with it. It's a deraisa. How could it be that this Talmud Chacham, is Kara, Vishona, Vishimish, Talmid Chachamim, how could it be that a deraisa, where there's a deraisa that he now was violated that, and he was Yoshanima Bekira Basar? So they other Rishonim learn that it doesn't mean that she was a Zava. It means, and the the Zayin Nekiyim that the Rabbanan instituted for a Nida, which is of course Nayeg Bisman Hazeh, and the minhag was, now Zayin Nekiyim, unless a Isha is Taivel, it doesn't matter how long, what the length of time is, from the time there was a Riyaz Dam until the time where she's eligible to be Taivel, and she is Taivel, she'll be Tmeya Deraisa. So they said they had a custom that after the 7 days of the Nida Deraisa, when there was no longer a Riyaz Dam, they were Taivel. And then they were minor, they counted the Zayin Nekiyim, and then they were Taivel again after the Zayin Nekiyim. But after the first Tefillah, there was no longer a Isser Deraisa. The requirement for Zayin Nekiyim, for a Nida, for regular Nida, not when it's Zava, the regular requirement of Zayin is a Derabbanan. Now, if she was already Taivel and went to the mikveh after the period of time of a Nida, the requirement for Zayin Nekiyim is 7 consecutive clean days after there was already a Tefillah, after the period of time of a Nida. That's a Derabbanan. So you didn't violate the Deraisa, you violated the Derabbanan. Al Kolpanim, we see over here this inyan, which we discussed before, that there cannot be, with an Isha Nida, there cannot be any Kiruv Basar. Next, the Mishnah Ve'elu min ha'halachas shamru ba'aliyas Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Gar. These are the halachas that were said in the attic of Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Gar. As we'll see in the Gemara, he stayed in his attic. There, Sefer Yecheskel, on a superficial reading of Sefer Yecheskel, seems to be that there are many psukim that are contrary to what's written in the Torah. It seems to be Seiser what the halach is from the Torah. So there was a movement to try to conceal Sefer Yecheskel. But he made his mission to be miyashiv, to reconcile and to interpret properly the psukim in Sefer Yecheskel, so that there's no contradiction to what's written in the Torah, and he restored Sefer Yecheskel. At that, there was a point in time when the Chachamim went to visit him, and there were Chachamim from Beis Hillel, a Chacham from Beis Shammai. So they went at a certain point in time to visit, Shalu Levakru, and they discussed certain halachas at that time, and Nimna V'Rabba Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, and there were more Chachamim from Beis Shammai than from Beis Hillel, and therefore they were the roy of the majority, and their maskana, their psak din, was the one that they were kavei lahalacha. The Yudches Dvorim goes by B'yom, and there were 18 zeras that they were geyser on that day. On that day, they enacted 18 zeras, which we'll see in the following Amudim what those 18 zeras were. See the Gemara, Amalei Ba'al Rav Yosef, Elu Tanan, Oiva Elu Tanan. Is it Elu or Ve'elu? What's the difference? Ve'elu Tanan, Hanidamar. Is it Ve'elu? Is it a continuation of what we learned before? That we learned in the previous Mishnah, that you cannot be Kair on Shabbos La'or Ner, you can't read La'or Ner, you can't remove the lights from your garments. Meaning, so those two were part of the 18 Takonos Xeras, and now there are additional 16. Or come on. Or no, what we mentioned before are not part of the 18. The 18 starts, Elum and Halachas starts from these, going further and going to what will be learned later, the Gabi Hilchas Shabbos, that you don't soak the joy, the ink, the things, the halachas that are coming up. Tashma, let's bring a raya. In Poelim La'or Haner, it says that you not remove the lights La'or Haner, Vein Karim La'or Haner, and you not read for the light of the candle. Ve'elu min halachas Shamru Ba'aliyas Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Gar. And these are the halachas that are mentioned, meaning it's a continuation. That this is adding to what was just mentioned. The two that are mentioned, they're the following, are added. Shema Mina, Ve'elu Tanan, Shema Mina. So it's all Ve'elu, which is moisif on what was said before, as Taisa says, and therefore this is the two that were mentioned previously are part of the 18, and now they're the 16 that are coming up. So there's the Megillas Tanis. Megillas Tanis records some of the nisim that happened to Klal Yisrael, that there were tzoras, that they were saved from certain tzoras, and there were geyser that you should not fast on those days. Those days are a day of simcha, a day of Mishnah, and it's also to have a tanis on those days. Later on, there were more and more tzaras, so therefore those were not kept to the degree that they were kept at the time when it was written, towards the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. But at that time, where there was recorded, there were days where Tanis was Aser. It was Tanis Aser, both Tanis Yochid and Tanis Tzibor. Who wrote it? Omru Chananya ben Chizkiya v'Siyat. Says Chananya ben Chizkiya, the one that we were discussing in our Mishnah, he's the one that authored the Megillas Tanis. Shoyim Mechavim es Atzaras. They were Mechavim the Tzaras. They appreciated when there was a Tzara. They understood that Rebbeinu Shalom gave them the Tzara for a reason, a valid reason. When they got saved from them, they were full of Shevach Ha'idot to Rebbeinu Shalom that saved them from the Tzara that they were deserving, and nevertheless Rebbeinu Shalom saved them, and they made it into a Yom of Mishta, which is also a Yom of Simcha, which is also Batanis. We also understand and appreciate and cherish the tzaras of Manasa. What should we do? If we're going to write all the times that we were saved from these tzaras, there's too many. It's not practical. That a shaita is not nifka. A person who's a shaita is a fool. He doesn't understand if he bumps into something, or if there's an accident, or if he's in danger. He doesn't understand the danger that's meaning. They were pikchim. They understood the danger that was confronted them, and when they were saved from it, they made a Yom Simcha. Our generation don't have that understanding and that wisdom, so we don't understand the times that we are saved from potential tzaras that might confront us. Now, another interpretation is that the basar, which is mace, the flesh which is dead, it doesn't feel the basar of a mace. Rather, the basar of a mace does not feel in margish be'izmo. It doesn't feel when it's being pricked. We don't have the sensitivity. We don't have the understanding. We're not on that madrega. We're considered, compared to them, like Mason. So we don't feel the tzaras that confront us, and therefore we don't appreciate the salvation from those tzaras. Is that true? In the Frakta Gemara, is it true that the basar of a mes does not feel where it's being pricked with a knife? When the mes decomposes, it's the pain that it feels is like pricking the flesh of a live person. And his flesh, it's kayev. It hurts him. He has pain from it. So Gemara says, Ema, rather, what it means is, Eina basar hames shebachai. It doesn't mean the basar of a mes. It means the dead flesh of a chayiv. A person has that on his body, dead flesh. There was a wound that was healed, but it's the basar is mes, or the different parts on the body where they're like the elbow, etc., where the basar is considered mes. So there's no feeling there. If you prick it, you don't feel the pain over there. It doesn't feel where it's being pricked. Right? So if there's basar that already became sort of numb, as basar mes, it doesn't feel be'izmo. So too, we don't have that sensitivity to understand the dangers that confront us and appreciate when we're saved the salvation from them. He should be remembered always l'tayv. V'Chananya ben Chizkiya Shemai she'el molehu. If not for him, nigna sefer Yechezkel. They would have hidden away. They would have put in Geniza sefer Yechezkel. Why? Shayu dvaros seisrim divrei Torah, because it appeared that what it said was contrary to what is said in the Torah. Maas, what did he do? He took 300 barrels of oil, v'yashiv ba'aliyah, and he sat in his attic, so he had the oil for the light, for the fuel, v'darshan, and he sat there until he resolved it. He's Dirish, and he reconciled it, so there's no stira between Sefer Yechezkel and the Torah, and therefore it was not nignas.